Harihi Om. Jnananandamayam Devam Nirmalar Spatikhatrudhim Adharam Sarva Vidyanam Hayagreevamupasmahe Yasyadvaranavakratyaya Parishatya Parashatham Vignam Nignam Tisatatam Vishwashremam Tamashraye Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Sarvalokana Bisaje Bhavarogina Nidaye Sarva Vidyana Sri Dakshina Murthaye Namaha Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Vishveshwararpanamastu Sahanao Bhavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vitvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Sai Ram Astika. Sai Ram and welcome to week 7 of the wisdom of the Upanishads. It's already week 7, right? As I said last week, time flies when we're having fun, right? So today, we continue our journey onward, forward, by exploring, right, the wonderful contents of Kena Upanishad, right? Kena Upanishad. Now, it was, or it is rather, presumed that it is perhaps written, authored, created around the middle of the first millennium BCE, right? Again, this is one of the Mukhya Upanishads, right? Principal or significant Upanishads. And the Veda, remember I said every Upanishad is tied to a Veda, right? This Kena Upanishad is tied to Sama-veda, and of course, every Veda has got 4 parts: the Brahmana, the Samhita, the Aranyaka, and the Upanishad, right? So this Upanishad is part of the Tala-Vakarama, Brahmanam of this Sama-veda. Tala-Vakarama, Brahmanam of the Sama-veda. Again, it's not very big, unlike the Brihadaranyaka, right? And the Chandogya. This is quite a small Upanishad, or a short Upanishad with 4 main chapters. Again, the focus of this wonderful work is the greatness of the Atman / Brahman, right? Atman and Brahman is likened to be the same energy. Okay, so if I said Atman, if I said Brahman, I'm referring to the same thing, right? Para-Brahman, right? Which is different from Brahma, which is different from Vishnu, which is different from Maheshwara, right? Through Brahma, through Vishnu, through Maheshwaraha, through Durga, through Lakshmi, through Saraswati, through Krishna, through Rama, whatever you want to refer to, they are the means by which we reach the end, which is the Brahman. And this Kena Upanishad speaks of that philosophy. And of course, who greater than Shankaracharya to have commented on this great work? Now, the Kena Upanishad is also significant because it proposes the idea of the spiritual man, not the material man, but the spiritual man. You see, because the self is a wonderful thing. It's a being. The self is a being that even the gods worship, right? That's why they say Manusha Dheva Rupenam, so man is made in the image of God. So if man becomes God, even the gods will look up to him and worship him, right? So the self is a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful being that even the gods have the capacity to worship. And the Atman, i.e. the true self, the real self, the inner self, the original self, the genuine self exists. And the ultimate aim of this normal self in trying to latch on to the real self is by getting, attaining, acquiring, practicing, and living in knowledge and spirituality. This should be the final goal, knowledge and spirituality. Only through knowledge and a spiritual sense of living can this normal self become the Atmic self. That is the central focus of this Kena Upanishad. Kena actually literally means, well, depending on the object, subject context, right? It means by what? Kena. Or Kena could also mean by whom? Kena, right? Whence? How? Why? From what cause? From which cause? So Kena Upanishad means the Upanishad that questions the what, the whom, the why, the when, and the who. Wonderful, right? And this actually, if you look at the first verse of the Kena Upanishad, it starts with this inquiry. It starts with the question first. So Kena Upanishad basically derives his name from the word Kena or Kena Ishitam. Kena Ishitam, right? By whom directed? By whom directed? So just a simple thing, right? If you watch a movie, the first question you ask is sometimes who's the director, right? And then you go on to the actors or whatever, but always the director is given credence. Likewise, Kena Upanishad starts with asking, Kena Ishitam, by whom direct? This is, whose play is this? Who's directed this, right? In terms of structure, it has got 4 sections. The first 2 are in a verse form, verses. Not 14 verses. And the second 2 chapters are in the form of a prose, paragraphs, that sort of thing. So the verses deal with the Supreme Brahman, the unqualified, the indescribable, the absolute principle underlying the phenomenal world. It deals with that Brahman. And the prose deals with that Brahman being worshipped as God or Ishvara. So through God or Ishvara, we can go to Brahman. See, the knowledge of the absolute is possible only, listen to this, very important. The knowledge of the absolute is only possible to those who develop the capacity to withdraw from their senses and their thoughts from worldly objects and concentrate instead on the well-being of the universe. To that person, the knowledge of the absolute is within reach, is within grasp. To all others, you can try. Kena Upanishad is saying this. The moment you are able to withdraw from your senses and withdraw your thoughts from worldly objects, and instead focus your thoughts and senses on the well-being of the universe, you attract that absolute Brahman. I mean, what more do we need in terms of, signposting? Here, the Upanishad is telling you. This series is called Wisdom of the Upanishads. And what I'm giving is the extracted wisdom direct from the source. The Upanishad is saying, you want to know the experience, you want to experience, you want to know, you want to experience the absolute Brahman. Okay, withdraw your senses from worldly objects. Withdraw your thoughts from worldly objects. Instead, focus on the well-being of the universe. There you go. If you take away nothing from this 15 weeks, you take away just this and put it into your life, put it into practice, put it into application, and you see where you get to, right? It's an absolute inner road to spiritual evolution or spiritual liberation. And you know, the other thing I found when I was doing my research on this wonderful work, amongst all the Upanishads, right? This Kena Upanishad is one of the most analytical, and indeed its character is one of metaphysical. Metaphysics in this Upanishad is amazing. It just takes you to a different level. Of course, what's the purpose? Anything metaphysical, the purpose will be to lead the mind from the gross to the subtle, from the effect to the cause. You chant it. Brihadaranyaka, I started by telling you, Asathoma, Satgame, Tamastoma, Jyotirgame, Mrityoma. This takes you to a different level. Take your mind from the gross to the subtle, from the effect to the cause, and know that you yourself are the very cause. That is Brahman. And once you hit that level, really nothing and no one will make a difference to you. Just going. You know, someone sings praises to you, you say, his ichcha. Someone curses you to the end of the world, you will say, his ichcha. Someone smiles at you, his ichcha. Someone, you know, stares at you, his ichcha. Someone gives you the best food, his ichcha. Someone spits at you, his ichcha. You are not perturbed by anything, anyone, or any event. That is the level where you and Brahman are one. I am that which you give. That will be your attained. That will be your mindset. I am that which you give me. Finish. Give me goodness, I am goodness. You give me badness, I am also that badness. I am no different. But I am not going to react. Neither will I respond. Right? During Bhaja Govindam, I said, don't react, always respond. Now, in the Upanishads, I'm telling you, don't even respond. Carry on. Right? And another wonderful thing which, you know, I discovered in you know, working through this Upanishad is, you know, it works through a series of profound questions and answers, And, you know, by the series of these Q&As, right, question and answers, it seeks to locate one thing. And what is that one thing? The source of man's being. And to expand that self-consciousness until, you know, it becomes identical with the supreme consciousness that is Brahman. I'll give you a very simple example to explain what I've just said to you, right? If you have a matchstick, right? You light a candle. Now the candle is lit, it's got a little flame at the top, right? Okay, now, again, you strike another matchstick. Now look at the flame of that matchstick and look at the flame of that candle. They differ, right? They differ in size, maybe the color is different, depends on the quality of the matchstick, all that blah, 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 right? Now what you do, you take that matchstick, that flame in the matchstick, and you take it to the candle and you merge it. Now, once you merge it, can you tell me which part of the flame is the matchstick and which part is the actual candle? This is what I'm saying, right? That little matchstick is your own self-consciousness. I am saying expand it, and merge it with the Supreme Consciousness so that you and the Supreme Consciousness become one, so that the Jivatma becomes the Paramatma, the Paramatma assumes the Jivatma, and you become the Supreme Brahman. This is the sum total of Kena Upanishad, right? Like I said, it's divided into 4 sections. Right? The first one contains about 14 verses, you know. Chaturdasha Manjarika, sometimes it is known as, right? The next 2 chapters, sections are in a prose form, you know, like paragraphs. And so they deal with an episode in the beginning of creation when the gods of heaven were introduced to the mystery and glory of the Supreme Brahman, whom they themselves haven't met. These are the gods, the Devas. They themselves haven't met, And the Kena Upanishad starts by telling the story of how the gods themselves met Brahman. So you see, going to Devaloka or Indraloka is not the end. Even they have a higher purpose to achieve. Right? It's all an extension in terms of, evolution, spiritual evolution, where you are, right? Or where you want to be. See, until the gods, the Devas, were introduced to that Brahman, they were under the impression that they were the mightiest of all, right? The best beings that could ever be, the mightiest of them all, Then Brahman appeared before them in the form of a yaksha. See, one of the Kubera mantras starts with yaksha. I mean, a divine celestial being, right? Yakshaya Kuberaya Vaishravanaya Dhanadhanya Dipadaye Dhanadhanya Sambatti Me Dehi Dehi Dava Yatswaha. That's one mantra to pray for wealth. But the same mantra can be chanted in a slightly different way, and you change the material wealth to spiritual wealth. Yakshaya Kuberaya. You see, you change then it changes the meaning. Anyway, so Brahman appeared before the Devas as a yaksha, a celestial being, to teach them a lesson or two, if you like, in humility, right? So the first section explains that Brahman is the eternal reality behind all our sensory experience and mental processes. Brahman is the eternal reality behind all of our sensory experience. You touch something hot, ooh, hot. Brahman is telling you that, right? Mental processes. You look at something, you absorb the information, and then you process the information, and then it comes out as words. It is a fine day. The sun is shining. The wind is blowing gently and softly against the skin. Mental processes. Brahman is the eternal reality behind all your sensory experience and mental processes. Right? I'm not talking about the mind yet. I'm coming to the mind. He is responsible for all their actions, sensory actions, organic, perception, all. The senses cannot reach him because he's beyond that. And the mind, it's not Brahman, but works because of Brahman. Right? Very important to understand this. What you call distinction, right? Brahman is the eternal reality behind all our sensory experience and mental processes. He is responsible for all the actions, but he is verily detached from them, and the senses cannot reach him or touch him because he is beyond them. Detached, total detachment, right? Total detachment from senses. But the senses will still work, but it is up to you to detach yourself from that. And the mind too, the mind is not Brahman, but it works because of Brahman in order to get to that very Brahman. Right? So it's like giving you some food to eat to survive, and through that survival, find your true cause of birth. Right? Now, why do they say Brahman is indescribable? Because he is both the known and the unknown. What you are aware of is only to the extent of your knowledge, isn't it? That which you have not experienced, you do not know. That which you do not have experienced, you are not aware of. So how can you say, I know everything? So Brahman is beyond the known and beyond the unknown, and hence our awareness of him is very limited, and therefore we cannot describe it. Indescribable. Indescribable. Now, in the, even the mind has got a conscious part, unconscious part, and Brahman is the part that remains active even when the mind is unconscious, even in your sleep. The sleep has got 3 levels, right? That he's constantly conscious, even in a state of unconsciousness. He is conscious of that consciousness, unconsciousness. My God, it's fantastic. No one can say with complete certainty or knowledge that they know Brahman. Those who think so, in actual reality, do not know him at all. Those who are humble enough to acknowledge that they do not know him, perhaps know him better. Right? Those who have the humility to say, I'm seeking him, I don't really know him, I know of him. you perhaps have a better knowledge of Brahman than those who say, I know Brahman, right? So the Upanishads explain further this particular one, said Brahman, right? So now I'm talking about Nidguna, those without form now. If you talk about Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, they're all Satguna, with form. Brahma's got 4 heads, Vishnu with Garuda, Shiva with Rishabha and all of that, right? I've gone beyond that. I'm talking about Nidguna Brahman, right? That which has got no, attribute, no character, but indeed characterizes everything in its absolutelessness, right? For example, if you look at the Purusha Shuktam, right? One of Swami's favorite Vedic verses. It starts with the whole thing. It says, Sahasra Sirisha Purushaha Sahasrakshas Sahasrabhat Sabhumim Vishvatho Vrutva Atyadittashtashangulam Purusha Evedagam Sarvam Yat Bhudam Yat Chabhavyam. It goes on right now. Sahasra Sirisha Purushaha. He is one with 1,000 eyes. Right? Sahasrakshas Sahasrapad. He is also got 1,000 limbs. Sabhumim Vishvatho Vritva means this just 1,000 eyes and is enough, is grand enough to consume and subsume the entire world. Atha Tadishthangulam. And that supreme vastness, which is represented by 1,000 eyes and 1,000 limbs, which is enough to subsume and consume the entire world, is only as big as my angula. That is Brahman. Purusha Evedagam Sarvam. Wherever you look, whatever you look, whoever you look at, Purusha is there. Realize that, oh Manusha, realize that. Upanishad is saying, when an aspirant understands Brahman through his surface consciousness, as well as through his inner personal experience and consciousness, then he has begun the journey to know that Brahman in the right way. Then and only then. Right? That's the first 2 sections. The other 2 sections talk about how the gods came to know Brahman through victories through the war, which of course they thought, they were the ones winning all the time until they realized, the presence of Brahman in everything, right? Even when you lose the cause, it could be Brahman. Even when you win the cause, could be Brahman. Victory is verily Brahman, so is failure. Everything is Purnamadha Purnamidham Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamathaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Everything is nothing, yet nothing is everything. In that everything, nothing exists. In that nothing, everything exists. Now, some of you might think, but brother, this is easily said than done. Why not? Why not? If they are telling, oh man, this is possible, then surely it must be possible, isn't it? The question is, how much effort are we putting towards this transformation? You see, my view of society's problem is, right, everybody thinks no one else is doing it, so why should I? That is my diagnosis. Whereas everybody should think, to hell with everybody else, whether they are doing it or not. I want to do this because I want to realize. Everybody is enjoying life, so why should I be the idiot who's going down this path? Carry on then. What did I say earlier? One who truly withdraws from sense objects and the knowledge is taken from sense objects and put into universal well-being, you will attract Brahman to you. You don't have to go. You will attract. And even if you cannot identify Brahman if he's in front of you, he will get the message to you, somehow. You don't have to worry. This is exactly what happened with the Devas. They didn't know who's Brahman. But even when he appeared before them, they didn't know. So he took the form of a Yaksha and then took the form of Devi to go and tell, look, this is what Brahman is. You cannot know Brahman without knowing yourself. That is why I think one of the sessions I said the word Brahma, right, has the capacity to give you either Brahman or Brahmam, right? If you take Brahma, the word Brahma, that is Brahma, right? So if you worship Brahma or you worship the creative energy of your, being, of your aliveness, then the way you worship, the way you think, the way you speak, the way you act can determine whether Brahma becomes, at the end of the day, whether the word Brahma, Brahma, ends with an N or ends with an M. It's just two opposite meanings, right? Brahma is Brahma. But if at the end of your life you get an M, then you're Brahmam. That means you're dead, a corpse. Shavam. You can become Shivam, but you chose to live your life in such a way that at the end of the day you are just a Shavam, a corpse. Brahmam and Shamam. A Shavam is the same. Whereas if you lived it in such a way, you can realize Brahman. And right? Brahma is you. You are alive. You are Brahma. Right? You are creative, isn't it? You are creative in your thoughts, you're creative in your words, you're creative in actions. Yeah, to some extent. Everybody is different, but everybody is creative. So you're Brahma. But how you choose to live that life of yours, how you choose to exercise that knowledge, how you choose to exercise that speech, how you choose to exercise your goodwill, your character, your attitude, your behavior, that will determine whether at the end of the day, Brahma becomes Brahman or Brahmam. Fantastic, isn't it? You only think about it. Right? So there are 4 khandas, 4 chapters or 4 khandas in this Kena Upanishad. The first has about 8 verses. I said to you the first 1 or 2, the first section and the second section is in a verse form, right? VERSE, verse form. 8 in the first chapter, 5 in the second chapter, so 14. And then the third and the fourth are in the prose form. So they got about 12 paragraphs in the third chapter, and then the fourth one has got 9. So in total, you have 34 divided into 14 verses and 20 or rather 21 paragraphs. Okay. So that's the structure if you're looking at it that way. And there are different writers at different times quote different positioning of the Kena Upanishad in different manuscripts in different parts of India, right? The south, the north, the west, the east, right? So if you look at the Shankara's Bhashyas, right? He refers to Kena Upanishad as being, the 9th chapter, as I said to you earlier, of the Talavakara Brahmana from the Sama-veda. Whereas the Western researchers and writers put it in the Sama-veda in the 10th Anuvaka or the 4th chapter in the Jaimina Brahmana. Different people have looked at it and have placed it in different. But my point, the reason I'm saying this, you don't worry about the positioning, right? If I show you a book, any book, right? But if I show you a book, for example, if I showed you a book, right? Don't tell me the color of the cover is not nice. Turn. Just focus on what is inside. Right? Then you'll know what I'm talking about. Right? So don't worry about the color, who actually wrote it. Always inquire, what can I get out of this? Even if it is 1 page, what can I get out of this? How can it increase my knowledge? And how can that knowledge being increased expand my wisdom? That is the question you have to ask. Not who wrote it, how many chapters, what, what font. All that is unnecessary information, right? What can I get out of this? If you get that attitude, anything you get, anything you read, what can I get out of it? If it is goodness, knowledge, intelligence, wisdom, then read. If it is rubbish, don't read. Isn't it? So you have a choice of reading newspapers, reading all the magazines, journals, everything. Ask this question. Is this going to increase my intelligence and wisdom. And can I use that intelligence and wisdom to serve my fellow men? Yes, read. No, no, carry on. Next one. Same question. Yes, read. No, carry on. Next one. So people read newspapers. They make the conscious choice. I'm going to buy a newspaper and read. I'm going to watch this movie. I'm going to watch this news. And then they spend the time talking about all these negative. So from negative energy that is gotten through the sight, through the all your senses, your eyes, your ears, your mouth, your nose, everything. Then you spread that. Negativity spreads negativity faster than the speed of light. Goodness is very slowly spreading. In Upanishad, and I told you it's metaphysical, right? So it just talks about the intelligence of man, which is lying latent. And you know, my classic reference, right? The Vignesh classic, what is latent can be made patent and then made potent. It's in your hands. Every single one of you, it is in your hand. No one empowers you more than yourself. Show me a person who can empower you more than you, and I shall bow to that Brahman, because he is verily Brahman, because he can make you more powerful than your own thoughts. No such person exists. A good acharya, a good teacher, a good guru will only say how powerful you are, not how powerful he is or she is or whatever the guru is. That is knowledge, that is intelligence, that is wisdom, that is jnana, Brahma jnana. For me to make you realize that you are verily Brahma, who can understand, attain, acquire and achieve that Brahman, that makes me a great acharya. Because we are both in the same journey. It's just that I am just in front of you by a mile or two, that's all. I'm still on the journey, just like you. So I'm telling you how to make that journey quicker and reach me. Because by the time you reach where I am, I would have gone further, so I can give you further guidance. Simple. Okay, so let's look at the 4 chapters, right? The first chapter, again, by a series of question and answer, right? It opens by questioning the nature of man. If you think you are so great, oh man, where did you come from? Kena, who created you? Why were you created? When were you created? How were you created? What is the essence of the relationship between you, the creation, and the creator? Brahman. So the question is, so how do I know that Brahman? Well, I've given you sensory perceptions. I've given you senses. I've given you buddhi, intelligence. Right? Now here, the knowledge to get to Brahman can either be, from a research perspective, right? Empirical or conceptual. When you do research at master's or PhD doctorate level, you either do empirical level or conceptual, literature-based research. So here's 2 things, empirical knowledge and conceptual knowledge. Empirical knowledge can be taught, can be described, can be discussed, whereas axiomatic, conceptual knowledge cannot. And this is what the Kena Upanishad says. That which is self-evident cannot be taught, can only be experienced. Whereas empirical knowledge, I can tell you fire is heat. And the greater the fire, the greater the heat, right? I can teach you that. I can describe that. I can discuss with you that. But the self-evident lesson of the fire is experiencing that heat, isn't it? Only if you go and burn your finger, you'll know, oh, I have now experienced fire. And the Kena goes straight to that. The Kena Upanishad goes straight to the experience. The pure abstract concepts are learned and realized, and then it is used to reach the highest reality, which is Brahman. So it is a means to the end. All knowledge, circular or otherwise, is a means to the end. That end is Brahman. Right? To that point where Brahman is, the eyes goes not. Where the eyes goes not, the speech goes not. Where the eyes and the speech goes not, the mind does not. So, what I don't know, what I don't understand, how can I teach that? This is what the Kena Upanishad questions. That is the Brahman, right? It is beyond the beyond. It is above the above. It is below the below, right? Therefore, it is from the forebearers that the doctrine is transmitted through Shruti and Smriti. Learn and evolve, right? So then the verse, if you look at verse 4, it says the Brahman cannot be worshipped because he has no attributes, right? But you see, they are so clever that from the Nidguna, they know nobody can perceive or foresee what the Nidguna is. So they give you Satguna. Brahman is shown to you through Brahma. Brahman is shown to you through Vishnu. Brahman is shown to you or can be achieved, can be attained, can be acquired, can be realized, can be experienced through Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. The three Nitis, the three Murtis, right? But then it is imbalanced. Only Shiva is there, right? Shiva means force. There's no Shakti, like male, female, good, bad, white, black, day, night, positive, negative. So the Sadguna gives you the three Shaktis, the three Devis, Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Durga or Parvati. Now there is a balance. Shiva, Shakti, force, energy, through which you can evolve higher to that level of subconsciousness that will catapult you into the superconsciousness where you can see the Supreme Personality, Brahman. It's very, 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 what shall I say? It is given to us in such an incremental way that, if we just take one step at a time, in increment, in a piecemeal fashion, if you like, we'll get there. Isn't it? Whether it's 100 stairs or 300 stairs, if you take one at a time, right, you'll still reach there, isn't it? Of course, different people will reach at different time, but everybody will reach at some point in time, unless you give up and you prefer to go down rather than coming up. And that is rebirth. Punarjanmaha. Right? So where's the choice? In your hands. That what man worships is neither Atman nor Brahman, but rather a path to that. Because that Brahman cannot be perceived, but only experienced. It is that which hears through your ears. It is that which sees through your eyes. It is that has the power to behold and bewitch someone who's listening to you. That is Brahman. It is the smells and the aroma that you get through your breath, prana. And it is that power of comprehension that comes through mind and thoughts. That is Brahman. We say, oh, I hear a sound. That is Brahman. Your ear and the result of that sound is only intermittent. But that hearing, that is Brahman. If you don't have hearing, you still have your ears. But can you listen to that sound? No. If you're blind, you still have your eyes. You can't see. That sight is Brahman, is gone. If you lose your ability to talk. And of course, if you're not breathing anymore, that's it, right? So the Atman or the Brahman is not that which man worships, but which can get you to experience the object of that worship, which is attaining, union with that supreme consciousness, Brahman. This is what Chris Woodburn, he's another famous writer, researcher. He's very heavily involved in researching the Vedic works and the Upanishads in particular. He said, this is the faith in Christianity. So he's telling what Kena Upanishad has said about, reaching that ultimate source. He said, this is what Christianity actually refers to in faith. But obviously it was dismissed by the Christian faith. But he wrote a book on this, right? In contrast to what Woodburn has said, Shankaracharya, the great Acharya, he said, this is only monistic. That's all. Nothing else. Nothing else, he said. Right? So after giving you this idea of what Brahman is, the second Khandha, the second chapter actually talks about self-awakening. And that is the source of your inner strength. The moment, let's say you are going through a problem, right? Say you're going through a problem. And every day you get up with this, oh my God, how I'm going to solve this? How? And one morning you decide to do something. At that moment, the problem is solved. Because you've already decided. That self-awakening, because of that inner strength, has solved your problem. See, there is no problem if there is no solution. So if there are problems, there are solutions. But the problem is we focus too much on the problem, so we lose sight of the solution. If for every problem we are only looking for solution, then the problem becomes nil, negligible, not even present. Choice is yours. Do I look at the problem and get stuck with it, or do I look for a solution, an alternative option to come out of it? This is the second, right? The state of self-realization, the state of self-awareness, self-consciousness, self-surrender, self-satisfaction, and then self-realization. You can choose to be self-centered at the very base. Self-centered. Muda jahihi danagama trishnam guru satbuddhim manasivi trishnam yella vashe nija karmophatam vittam tena vinodaya chittam. Shankaracharya. Fool, leave this. What are you running after? Nothing will get you there. All that you need to get you there is within. Go within. Go inda. Hence, Govinda. Right? And this is another thing that amazes me. Everybody rushes to Tirupati, right? Tirupati Balaji. And they all shout Govinda, Govinda, Govinda. When the Balaji himself is telling you, go in, go in. No. We want to shout Govinda, Govinda. End of the day, Govinda. Finish. The very Balaji is telling you, hey, go in, go in. Because the ears is not listening to the right sound. You miss the boat. The eyes is not looking at the right source. You miss the vision. The tongue does not say the right thing. You miss the opportunity. The heart does not feel the right sense. You miss the chance. This is why the faculties have been given to you. This is why the senses have been given to you. Are you using them for the right purpose? And this is what Shankara says. Kena Upanishad, end of the day, creates the spiritual man. If he reads and does whatever the Kena says. Kena, how, why, where, from who, what, how. This is Kena Upanishad. Fantastic, right? He in whom the Atman, this is self-realization, he in whom the Atman or Brahman awakes, knows it. And as soon as he knows it, he finds immortality. Mrityorma amridam gamaya, this is what it's talking about. That he himself is at the end of that result. He himself is the end result. When he knows it, he gets immortality. He who finds this finds the truth. Ekam Sat. He who realizes this as the truth becomes immortal instantly. Kena Upanishad. You can even become immortal without leaving this world. How many rishis are like that? Still living today, right? Being the messenger, passing the messages through the right channels. It's energy, receptors. The moment the rishi sees a receptor, he will give some form of information, and that receptor receives it. Like how Swami sometimes sends me some things which I haven't planned or read or I know not of, but yet I'm saying it. And then I'm amazed, how did I know this? Because I haven't read it anywhere. Nobody has told me. I haven't watched, any programs where this information was conveyed. So how? Brahman. And this is what Kena says, when you are ready, you become the channel. That's the second one, right? Second one only talks about self-realization. And if I can give you my own opinion on that, I said self-realization cannot come from external sources, must only come from you. So the day you realize and you decide, that's the day of self-realization. It's not just, getting up on a Thursday morning after Wednesday night and saying, okay, today I'm realized. What have you realized? That's a different thing, right? His self-realization is Atmajnana. Atmajnana. He converts Atman, Atman, isn't it? Atma is you, Jnana is that Atman. So when you add Jnana to your Atma, you become the Atman. Jnana is absolute wisdom. What is wisdom? Kena Upanishad is telling you, look, just withdraw from all your sensory senses, sensory objects, all your worldly knowledge, take out and put into how you can improve the universe. When you start doing that, don't worry about resources. Universe will give you. Universe has limitless resources. It will give you. Even I am talking about money. It will send you. You don't question. You just ask. Of course, the purpose must be there. You'll get it. Remember, I said to you, Trai Karana Suddhi, right? There must be a direct line between your conscious self, your subconscious self, and the superconscious. When the line is drawn and the connection is straight, communication, the link is there. Vertical link of communication between the conscious, subconscious, and superconscious. Whatever you want, you can get. That is why, Swami has shown many times, like this, he can give you something. Because he is above that level. Metaphysics doesn't mean anything. It means I'm capable of whatever I want to produce, I can. Wherever I want to be, even in parallel places, I can. I can be sitting here in my room, in the Yajur-veda Mandir, but someone will see me in Australia. Someone will see me, getting into a taxi in Malaysia. Someone will see me in Venezuela. Someone will see me in China. And these are all stories. You've read books, right? So it is experience. You may question it on the basis of skepticism because you have not experienced it. But how can you fault another person's experience, that which you have not experienced yourself? Same thing, if you have experienced something and you're sharing it and someone doubts it, you don't care because you've experienced it. So you know what you're saying is right. So like that. Now, the third section, the third kanda talks about the allegory of three gods, the allegory of three gods and one goddess. Well, earlier I said to you how Brahman came as a yaksha and through Devi showed the devas, this is Brahman, right? So there was a war between the devas and the asuras, and of course, it went on for many years, and the devas won, right? There are many, many battles, right? I mean, there is Puranic references, there is moral references to these battles, always. You say the victory of good over evil, and victory of positive over negative, that sort of thing, right over wrong, dharma over adharma. That's a separate matter. But what I'm saying is this was one of those battles, one of the many that the Devas fought and won. And there were some that they've lost as well. The Devas were celebrating, thinking we are the mightiest. We are the greatest. There is none that is greater than us in terms of force and being. So the Brahman, that consciousness, that is why I said, the supreme consciousness, which is the universe, knows everything you think, do, and say. Everything you think, do, and say. So it is constantly watching you, isn't it? Sahasra Sirisha Purusha, 1,000 eyes. With 2 eyes, you say you can see so much. Can you imagine the creator is telling you with 1,000 eyes, 1,000 arms, 1,000 legs, how much do you think I can do? And all that 1,000 is only the size of my little finger. So if you think we are so great, can you imagine the creator? Right. So anyway, Brahman noticed that these people were getting a bit, arrogant. And of course, living in that thought was vanity itself. So it revealed itself in a form. And the gods didn't realize what it's, what is this? What is this? But they said, what is this wonderful thing? What is this wonderful being? See, just the aura of the Brahman, as it presented itself to the Devas, was so magnanimous, was so beautiful, that all the Devas said, we don't know what this wonderful thing is. And then in the usual fashion of delegation, the gods, the Devas, or Indra rather, he delegated Agni. Okay, Agni, you go and find out what is this. Go and find out what is this thing. What is this wonderful thing? So Agni rushed to Brahman. And the Brahman asked, who are you? Agni replies, Aham Agniha. I am Agni, the knower of all things, the knower of all beings. Then Brahman asked, really? What is the source of your power, Agni? Agni replied, I can burn anything that is on earth without any issue. Just looking and thinking, I can burn anything. Brahman said, is it true? Okay. Well, can you burn this for me? So he created a blade of grass, and he put it before Agni. He said, burn this. And Agni tried with all its might. It couldn't burn. It is a piece of grass. Right? Grass. And then Agni gave up after some time, ran back to the Devas, and he said, look, I don't know what this wonderful thing is, right? Because I am powerless before it. Then Indra says, really, Agni? Vayu, you go next. Called Vayu, and he said, you go next. You go and find out what this wonderful thing is. And Vayu went. Again, Brahman saw. Vayu rushed to Brahman. Brahman said, who are you? Vayu replied, I am Vayu, Mathariswan. Mathariswan, that means that which fills all the space, whether it's earth, and I am the mover in space. Brahman said, okay, really? And what is the source of your power? What is the source of your power? You see, the Brahma is trying to make them realize that their power is not their source. The source is Brahman. So that's why he asked the same question to Agni. He's asking the same question to Vayu. Okay, so you are Vayu. Okay, you tell me what is the source of your power? Vayu replied, I am able to carry and lift anything and pull anything on earth. Whether it's big or small, I will move it with my might. And the Brahman took the same blade of grass and he put it before Vayu. He said, well, carry this away then. Vayu stopped it, puffed and blew until it gave up, and he says, he went back to the Devas and he said, oh my God, I don't know what this wonderful thing is. It looks, it communicates in such a beautiful way, and I'm just unable to fathom. And my energy is, completely useless, completely useless in front of it. Then all the gods said, look, Indra, Devendra, the god of the gods, you yourself go. The mighty Indra went. Right? Now, by the time Indra went, he didn't see that light that was Brahman. Instead, he found a beautiful Devi there. And her name is Uma. So, Uma Maheshwari, right? Uma Maheshwari was there. And so Indra approached her. He said, there was a being that was here, and I have come to find out what that wonderful being is all about. What is that wonderful being? And then Uma Maheshwari said, that is Parabrahman, which grants victory to everybody, including all the battles you fought. He is the reason of your victory. He is the thought, the victorious thought. When you say Vijayi Bhavaha, that is Brahman in action. Okay. And that is why these three people who experienced, or rather who are on the course of experiencing Brahman, is given some form of, predominance in all the Hindu sanskars. And I'm talking about Agni, Vayu, and Indra. They stand slightly elevated above all our other gods, because in ceremonies, in rituals and all that, these three are known as those who have met and experienced the Brahman first, before all the other gods, right? So if I can bring you down to the ritualistic level, now Karma Kanda, from Jnana Kanda, I'm bringing you to Karma Kanda, but you must use Karma Kanda to get to Jnana Kanda, right? I'm just drawing the distinction between, Dhupam. When the Acharyas or Gurukuls pray, the Dhupam, isn't it? Dhupam is the incense, the agarbatti. That is Vayu. Deepam, they show the light, isn't it? Whether it's Ekamugam, Trimugam, or Panchamugam, Arati, that is Deepam. So what is Indra? Indra is Gantha, the bell. You will never see any ritual without these three things, right? So now you know why, because they have met and experienced Brahman first. Adi Shankara says this is a mere symbolism. Shankara says this story, allegorical or not, it is a mere symbolism. He said, Agni symbolizes fire. Agni embodies fire, but it symbolizes the natural self, isn't it? The vital fire in all beings. That's why we say the prana mantra, isn't it? Om pranaya swaha, panaya swaha, udanaya swaha, vyanaya swaha, samanaya swaha, 5 vital airs in your body. So Shankara says Agni embodies fire, but symbolizes the natural self with all the vital fires in it, right? You say the Brahmarpanam, in that you will see, if you look at the meaning, you need the fire of digestion to digest your food and send it to different parts. And Vayu, Shankara says, Vayu embodies space that envelops the, the empirical existence, if you like. But it symbolizes the mental self. The Agni, natural self, Vayu, mental self, akin to thoughts about everything. And what is Indra? Indra embodies lightning, light illumination. Lightning when it strikes. Light and illumination, thus symbolizing the causal conscious self. The causal conscious self, the light of truth, lightning, truth, that discerns correct knowledge. This is what is fantastic. And he said the Brahman is the Atman, the external, the eternal, and you need Agni, you need Vayu, you need. So one is the natural self, one is the mental self, and one is the spiritual self. The war between the Devas and the Asuras, symbolism of, the battle between good and evil. So don't go to the Devas and Asuras. In your daily life, your body is the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And your 5 good senses are always fought by all the 100 bad senses. Your Pancha Pandavas are your 5 senses, always trying to be controlled and overruled by the 100 Kauravas. All the other 100 senses are saying, don't do this, do that, do this, do that, don't do this. So That's what the Kena Upanishad is saying. That all this is significance, symbolisms, significant symbolisms, right? So if you want to be victorious over your thoughts, don't be vain like the Devas. Realize that there is a superior force which is giving you that credibility, that capacity, that ability to do what you're doing and to do it well. And give credence to that. That is why Krishna says in the Gita, isn't it? He says, do your duty, don't go after the rewards. Just do it and go. Give up. Give up whatever good that comes or whatever bad that comes, you give up. Then you won't have a problem. Don't accept goodness as a result of your actions. Don't accept badness as a result of your actions. Once you have that quality of not accepting but just doing the good, then you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry after that. The fourth and the last khanda, it talks about timelessness and awareness of that Brahman. Brahman is timeless and his awareness itself, but we need to get that awareness, and that awareness is timeless. Similar to your moments when you have that eureka moment, as they say. When you either see something and you go, yes. Or you think about something and you go, yes, I got it, the eureka moment. And that is Brahman. The fourth khanda is saying, this timeless awareness, that is Brahman. When you see something, like if you, travel to see the northern lights, when you see it, you say, oh my God, that is Brahman. That OMG, that is Brahman, right? That's why they say the knowledge of Atman Brahman is Tathavanam, or Tatvanam, beyond, transcendental happiness, transcendental blissfulness. Tatvanam. Tatvanam, Tapovanam, Atmanyanam, Hridaya. Right? And this is what it says. To start your journey, you need two things. Tapas and Dhamma. What are these? The foundations, right? Tapas is tapasya, and Dhamma is a sense of balance. If you have a sense of balance in your austerities in life, then you are putting the right sort of foundations. On that foundation, the Vedas become the limbs and the truth becomes the fulcrum. This is what the Kena Upanishad says. Shankara actually has commented on this, right? He's written two, right? And many of his works refer to different Upanishads. But on Kena Upanishad, he's written two specific commentaries. One is known as Kena Upanishad Padabhashya. The other one is known as Kena Upanishad Vakyabhashya. Padabhashya, Vakyabhashya. And his commentary, he says, what the Kena Upanishad says as Atman or Brahman is what you human beings refer to as Ishvara or Parameshvara, Mahadeva, Maheshvara, Narayana. So he's telling there's a greater force, right? Remember last week I said to you, if you take someone and you show them there, the moon is over there, but they only look at your finger, they are not looking at the moon, they miss the boat. Likewise, Shankara is saying, this Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, all these Durga, Lakshmi, Saraswati, they are just pointing to a greater force. That is the Brahman. So there are means to the end, right? And he has said this in both his Padabhashya and Vakya Bhashya, as far as the Kena Upanishad, two commentaries he's written. And he's also said something similar in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, I think I mentioned it, and Chandogya Upanishad, right? And next week when I'm doing Katha Upanishad, again, I will say what he said about that in reference to Kena Upanishad, right? And there's lots of references from, Western writers. This is something that surprised me, and I thought, okay, let me share this information with all those who are listening to me, in the late 19th century, right? Late 19th century, a Persian by the name of Dara Shikoh, he read the Kena Upanishad and he published a Persian translation to Persia and all those who understood or spoke Persian language at that time, right? Then in 1878, a Westerner found it, right? Bernal found it, and he converted it to English, after which the French scholar, there's a French scholar called Duperron, he published a Latin translation from the Persian translation, right? And then the German read the Latin, and he published a German version of the Kena Upanishad. And then George Has, who he initially wrote about the Gita and all that, he read it and he said, another wonderful treasure of the Hindu theosophic law. Wow. Edward Hopkins, he also referred to the Kena Upanishad in his works. Sri Mali also talked about from the Middle East, also talked about Kena Upanishad. Fred Dalima talked about it. So there are many, many people who have made specific reference to Kena Upanishad. And in the beginning I said, among all the Upanishads, this is one of the most analytical and metaphysical in its appearance. And I suppose that is the attractor factor for all these Western writers, right? But at the end of the day, if you ask me, right? So brother, if you can, put the entire Kena Upanishad in one word, what would that word be? Right? If you asked me that question, I would say that one word is curiosity. Curiosity. It is curiosity that drives our progress and our quest for knowledge. Right? If you look at the evolution of man, we have always developed, progress, evolved because of this sense of curiosity. Right? Is there a faster way to travel than walking? Yes. Horses, then a horse carriage, then from a carriage, a motored vehicle, then a more powerful motored vehicle. But can we go faster than a car? Yes. Planes. Can we make planes faster? Yes. So everything is curious thing, right? We discover diseases, we discover, medicines for those diseases, we discover problems, we discover solutions for the problem, all this because of that one word, curiosity. And this is the central focus of the Kena Upanishad, which is what? More than in the first millennium BC, it was written then. Before civilization, new civilization. Kena Upanishad already said, this is the reality, this is the rationality, this is the knowledge that will help you. Be curious, but for the right reason. It is how you think. And the Vedic seers were also driven by such curiosity. Living in the Aranyakas, living in the forest, they observed the world around them and they were curious. Why is this happening? They asked questions, they sought answers, they debated, they argued, they disputed various theses, hypotheses, theories, anti-theories, and then they come up with the answer. That is why most of the Upanishads are in the form of a Q&A, question-answer, right? Wonderful thing, right? So, in the end, my question to you, and I will conclude today's session with this question to you, right? How curious are you to evolve to the next stage? Or do you want to continue? Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jatare shayanam, iha samsare bahut tustare, kripaya pare pahi murare. Be curious about your curiosity. Anyada sharanam nasti tumeva sharanam mamaha tasmat karunya bhavena raksha raksha. Sa Ishvara. Hari Om Tat Sat.